In this video clip, I want to talk about dreams that I've had that pertain, what I believe, to terrorism and the Feast of Tabernacles. I first started going to a Feast of Tabernacles, I think it was back in 2006, and it actually came from a dream that I'll talk about a different time. But it gave me the realization that the Feast of Tabernacles is where things are going to go over the next future in God's kingdom, but in the transition that God will put from what the church is doing now to what the church will be doing under the remnant. So but at any rate, so when I started going to my first feast in 2006, I was really excited, and I wasn't expecting really too much, but my goodness, it's turned out to be just every year just something crazy happens, crazy good. And again, I'll talk about that more later. But in this one particular dream, I don't know, I was probably there a couple of days, and I had this dream, and the dream lasted 6 hours. And that is obviously a guess, but it's based on I went to bed very late, because a lot of us do that, and during that time, and we stay up late, laugh and talk, and we have a great time, go to bed late. My son in the cabin with me woke up early at 7, and then I went back to sleep, woke back up at 10. So I just kind of estimated it was probably a 6-hour long dream, and I've never had one like that where I go to sleep again and the dream continues. So in this dream, it was a beautiful day. I mean, I can still feel the sunshine on my face over that day. It was just such a beautiful day, and very peaceful, very relaxing, and I was very happy. And I seemed to be at a Feast of Tabernacles because I was with, I could see some Jewish people there, and some other people, but I just remember seeing a Jewish woman, and she was at a market, and she was putting fruit in her basket. And so I'm just kind of relishing in the beauty of it all. And then all of a sudden, something happened. Somebody yelled, "It's the Prince of Persia." And this army comes over the hill, and fully like in uniform. They weren't ragtag, a group. They were an army in military order. But they came over, and all of a sudden the day just turned into a nightmare, and we were being shot at, and I would assume that women were getting raped and things like that. But I just remember being scared, and there were these little cabins, which is interesting too. Another reason why I think it's the Feast of Tabernacles. But they were little cabins throughout, and my plan was to not run, I guess, to kind of play it cool. And then I was going to see, the first cubbyhole I can hide into without anybody seeing me. Anyway, and then I heard probably an angel say, "You need to run." So I ran, and I didn't get shot in the back. That's what I was worried about. And so I ran past all the hellish action, went over a hill, and I was there with some people for quite a while. And there was a stream there, and we were just kind of all relieved, and we weren't in good shape, but we felt like we had just escaped something horrendous, and we felt relatively safe. And I think that was probably my longest span of my dream, was being down there with these people, and again, drinking water out of the creek or the river. And anyway, all of a sudden, what ruined all that are the Russians. And so the Russians came, and again, they started killing people. It didn't quite seem quite as savagery as the one before. Yet people died, and I was able to escape. And it seemed like in the group, half of us escaped, and the other half died. Stayed behind. And it just seemed like it went like that for a while. Anyway, then we arrived someplace else, and by then we were really tired, and we were really scared, and any peace that we did have was pretty much wiped out. We were a bit paranoid, and we were there for a while, and then once again, it was the Chinese that came after us, and again, it seemed like half the people probably perished or something. And then I took off and was, you know, I know probably about half of that group probably took off too. But at that point, I was by myself. I wasn't with a group or anything. It was kind of all for one, you know, one for all, or each person for itself, you know, pardon me. So I saw another group as I was running, and I went by, and it was a dark, evil, creepy group, but they weren't chasing us yet. But I could feel a lot of danger, a lot of terror that was going to happen, and just almost worse and more sinister than ever. And I look at that group as the New World Order, and not only this might alarm some people, but the story of the Nephilim and the UFOs, and there's Christian people that actually talk about the Nephilim and the UFO, the people coming, the fallen angels coming down in the UFO, you know, form, you know, pretending like they're gods, and that they planted us here on the earth. I mean, there's a whole agenda about that some people understand that. I've looked into it, and there's a bunch of different opinions, but I'm just saying that's what I saw there too. I saw the the New World Order type people, and then that UFO kind of thing, and whatever else, but everything was going on. They weren't chasing me, but I got out of there as fast as I could. And feeling completely scared and not knowing what to do. Instead of going kind of down a hill, which is kind of what I was doing, I kept on kind of declining. There was a mountain there, and I tried to climb it, and it was full of stuff. And I think what that stuff is, you know, God talks about the high places in the Bible. So I think what God was saying is that the high place in the United States at that point, which he'd want to be his home, his church, is actually full of things in the way, and it was not a high place that I was supposed to go up, and nor was it even available to go up. I don't think that it was really even, there wasn't anything much there. But anyway, I saw something at that point. There was a bathroom there, like an outhouse bathroom, like one of the big ones you'd see if you went to a campsite, and an old stony one though. And bathrooms are significant. It's a kind of, I call it a place of kind of complacency. It's where it can be the cleanest place, or it can be the dirtiest place. It's where you can clean up, or the dirtiest place, where you get rid of garbage. But I think it happened to be closed anyway. But it's significant that the bathroom was there, because out, you know, from coming from a distant area was a young man leading an old woman, and that's significant of almost something positive and angelic kind of young man leading this old church. The church tends to be, as you know, mentioned as a woman, and I've heard that an old woman tends to represent the church in a lot of people's dreams, and meaning that really, I think that she's carrying a lot of baggage. She's not living to her potential and her youthfulness, and you know, her being you know, energetic. So she's old and she's not doing what she's supposed to do. So, but anyway, but this angelic like being seen to be leading that, and then all of a sudden, we all three got in the car together and we took off. So I think you can tell what the first part of the dream means. The Prince of Persia could be maybe in ISIS, Iran. The Prince of Persia is kind of a spiritual connection. It can mean the Prince of Persia could be the old Persian Empire, you know, yes, but it could also mean other places that the Persian Empire, the spirit of Persia is over. So, but I believe it's that part of the world anyway. So I feel like that's probably the first invasion, and we can also see ISIS coming through the border too. So to me, that wouldn't be a surprise. And then the Russians and China, you know, they're not happy with us right now, and so and then at the very end comes in the New World Order to, you know, try to straighten things out. So with their army. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, seeing. Let's see what happens, but obviously it's not going to be good. But one thing with hope that I have had, this is a dream that gives me hope and lets me know what to do about this type of thing. And that is, I was with a group of people hiding out. So it almost seemed like kind of like this sort of time period. This is a dream, I think, back in 2005, 2006 or 7 or something like that. And we were all hiding out together, and kind of like what we had been doing in this previous dream. And things were okay. We were just not living real comfortably, obviously. And then all of a sudden, somebody came through, and that had been kind of checking out. You know, they were kind of they were watching out and bringing food back and forth, and it was that type of person. And so they came in and they said, it's finally safe to come out. And so relieved, it was like, wow, this is great. And so I exit out. We were in a cave at that point. We were hiding out. Anyway, so I leave the cave and from the darkness, and then I could see light, and I'm just like, thank God, I'm out. And I was even more relieved when I saw, you know, these military-looking people on the shores of the ocean. Like I had a feeling I was at the Pacific Ocean, and there they were on the shores, you know, standing on rocks and that. And again, I was relieved until I heard the voice of God, what I believe the voice of God say, when you see the UN peacekeeping forces coming to the United States, go to Israel. At that point, I didn't know the scripture is full, I mean full of the remnant going to Israel. And that's a discussion for, you can go to my website and get some more information on that. But for example, Jeremiah 51:50, it says about Babylon, those who have escaped from the sword, let each go to their native land, and let Israel come to your mind. So there will be a time when people will be going to their native land, and you know, maybe people from England will be going back to England. People from Germany will be going, you know, Germans will be going back to Germany and things like that, to get out of all the chaos that's going to be taking place in the United States. But really, if God is in our heart and we're listening, He's actually going to say, "Go to Israel. That's your homeland." And anyway, you can study the remnant. So here is, I don't know when that takes place. I talk about the Feast of Tabernacles. It's my opinion that takes place probably around Passover, just from looking at the scripture, or it's going to be kind of a Passover type event. So moving on, there was another dream I had. It was just in 2013. It was in July, and it was at the time when the poor little Mexican children were going over the border. So these poor little Mexican children could get, you know, food to eat and things like that, because they weren't being taken care of properly. You know, that was what they were saying. And comes to find out, there were teenage boys and gangs and things like that, and drugs and other stuff. They were coming across the border. So that was kind of the talk at the time when I had this dream. So in this dream, also kind of the time period is, there's a harvest I do around that time period, July, August, and it ends for me in September. At the beginning of September, maybe the end of August. And the Feast of Tabernacles is usually kind of later on in September. kind of September 20th to, early October, that kind of time period. Well, anyway, so I'm doing this harvesting, and I'm finishing up, and I'm telling some people I'm working with, okay, you're all done. Thanks for helping, but I'm just kind of sticking around, and I'm just kind of checking things out, and it just didn't feel very good. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a little girl comes with a teenage boy, an older teenage boy, and they're there as dreams go, kind of silly, but they're kidnapping me. And so I am able to get them to go, kind of lead them to, because I'm scared, to this building where it's kind of like a laundry room, and when you have when you camp and stuff, they have those laundry room buildings, and then you can play video games inside. Anyway, so I got them playing video games and distracting them, and then I started going out. Now, what they were doing is they were waiting for, the reason why I was able to distract them is because they were waiting for the big guns to come over the border. They were waiting for the Islamic terrorists to come over the border. Now, it was back in July 2013 where nobody was mentioning that. I remember talking to my friends, at least that I heard of. How about that? I talked to some of my friends after this dream, and I said, I know they're letting ISIS over the border, and it's just a matter of time. They're using the teenagers as cover and the children as cover so they can get these guys over the border, and they mean us harm. So a lot of people who know what's going on in the, like the Border Patrol and other insiders, they know this to be true. So as I'm waiting and looking over my back, knowing that this is going to be happening and trying to kind of beat the clock out, I wind up going over to these apartment buildings, and inside the apartment building is these friends that I do the Feast of Tabernacles with. So, and again, apartment building in the Feast of Tabernacles, it's kind of a temporary dwelling is kind of what they were staying, kind of like in a motel or something. It's kind of a temporary dwelling, which is what Tabernacles is. And again, that's the time I tend to get together with these people. So I have a suspicion that is what we might be up against. And it's a theory, it's a belief. In Amos 8, it says, God asks Amos, what do you see? And Amos says, a basket of summer fruit, because that's when they gather. That's kind of at the Feast of Tabernacles. They have summer fruit there. People pick their fruit, and they'll bring it and they'll set it on a table, and people share it. So, and then at that point, after Amos says it's a basket of summer fruit, then God says the end has come over the whole earth. So that might mean that's the beginning of the end. And so, for more information regarding some of my fulfilled dreams, other national spiritual dreams or encounters that I've had, and most importantly, the last day Ark of Safety, please go to my website at 11thhourpolitics.com.